Hey guys, I'm Nina.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Ethan.
And we have a very special guest with us. We have Steve from Aim for the Head.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Yay. Super excited, man. This is going to be so much fun. Thank you guys so much for having me.
So great to
absolutely.
have you.
Yes, very happy to have you on. We were wanting to have you on like almost immediately, so it's just a matter of schedules. But yeah, we're very excited to have you.
Oh, yeah.
Yay. Yeah. I have to say that it's unfortunate that the initial movie that I had hoped we could watch was kind of unavailable because you guys would have loved it.
I know. Yeah.
Japanese, and it's totally trippy and crazy. It's a little more serious than Hausa, but the same kind of tone. And you guys would have loved it. It's really too bad. Hopefully we can work it out later on because I'd love to talk to you guys about it. But if we have to talk about a horror movie, I am all set to talk for days about Halloween 2. So
yes, absolutely. And to clarify, this is not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. This is the original 1980s one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is the good one.
Yes.
Oh,
Is it though?
We'll get into that. Before we jump into Halloween 2 and talking more about with Steve, just a few quick announcements. We have some upcoming appearances at horror conventions near you. Days of the Dead, Indianapolis. We will be there July 5th through the 7th. Very excited about that. That is where Ethan and I met for the first time, and it'll be the 1-year anniversary of that.
That's right. There will be drinks to celebrate.
Yes.
I was at that show with you guys.
Yes,
you were.
Aww.
That was where I met you for the first time too, Steve.
In person. That is correct.
In person, yeah. We will also be at Flashback Weekend, August 2nd through the 4th.
Woo.
My favorite con in Chicago. I'm not gonna lie.
I still need to go.
James, you have to figure out a way to get here. I mean, there's like 6 cast members from from Carpenter's Thing are going to be there. Basically, everybody not named Kurt Russell is going to be there.
Yeah.
However you got to do it. If you got to
we're kidnapping her.
Go away. Yes.
Yeah.
We're literally kidnapping her. Yeah.
They're not letting me leave after Indianapolis.
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
They're just going to keep me.
Good plan. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She's just going to bounce from couch to couch if we have to. We don't care until she finds a place.
It's fine.
Nice. Good plan.
Yes.
And we will also be at Ohio TerrorCon August 16th through the 17th. Shout out to Whole Damn Enchilada Podcast for inviting us there. That is a brand new horror con, and it's going to be great. So, and just to clarify, we don't actually have a table at these conventions. We will just be fellow congoers like yourselves. Mm-hmm. So if you see us, yell at us, hunt us down. We want to take pictures with you. We want to meet you. And we just want to hang out and have a good weekend. So it's going to be great.
And actually, you know what on our show, when we say we're going to shows, because we do the same thing, we don't have a table. We always throw this in. You'll totally be able to pick us out because we'll be the ones wearing the horror movie T-shirts.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yes. And I'm going to let Ethan take over for a little bit and talk about our upcoming trivia event.
All right, everybody. As we've told you before, we are planning a trivia event either toward the end of summer or the beginning of spooky time. We'll get into more details of how it's going to be later, but we're going to have a first and a second prize. And if you win, you are going to get a gift basket valued, probably $50, $75 worth of merch and DVDs and some collectibles that we are going to send you to say thank you for participating. Thanks for winning and being a horror fan. Also, we're going to open it up to our Patreons first. They will have the first opportunity to come on with us and get a slot. I believe we're going to have 5 open slots.
Yep.
So the first 5 people who sign up will go to our Patreons first, and then the first 5 people who sign up, we'll let you guys know. We'll let you know the date, and we will have a grand old time.
Yep.
Hey.
So
awesome.
That's going to be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool. Would I be eligible to participate?
You would be, but
Absolutely.
first to Patreons.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to keep my eyes peeled for the links and stuff. So
send us.
All the links will be in the bio.
yeah, if you're interested, you can always reach out to us via email or social media.
Yeah.
So
Great.
reach out to us if you're interested. Even if you're not a Patreon, reach out to us. But of course, first come, first serve to the Patreon members. So,
Gotcha.
Steve, tell us about you, what you do, and your love for horror.
Wow. Yeah, that's gonna take a few hours. So,
We get it.
yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you guys are all children to me. So I'm much older than all of you. So I have been enjoying horror since like the mid '70s. And, my love of it started with the Universal Monsters. That's what I first experienced as a kid. And as we all know, the Universal Monsters are the gateway drug to the hard stuff.
Yes.
And so like for Halloween 2, just to kind of tie it in, when Halloween 2 came out, I wasn't old enough to go see it in the theaters because I was like 12 going on 13, or maybe I just turned 13. And, my mom wasn't going to let me go see an R-rated movie, much less one of those kind of R-rated movies. So, but I can like vividly remember the TV commercial for Halloween 2, with all the snippets of the movie. And the big thing is the pumpkin. And at the end, it splits open and there's the skull. And I wasn't freaked out by it. I was just like, oh my God, I have to see this movie. And you guys totally get it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do, and I remember, a lot of. I remember the ads for The Shining in 1980 when it was going to be released. I remember the TV spots for Alien, all that stuff. I was just fascinated by it, and of course, Son of Svengoolie came along in '79, and then that fed me my horror addiction and helped it grow. And I got to experience all the '50s giant bug movies and all of the different eras of horror, right? And I discovered the Romero zombie movies, and it was Night of the Living Dead first, and then it was Dawn, and then I just became just a zombie person, the modern ghoul, the modern definition of a zombie, the Romero version, and just ever since. And in terms of like professionally, I own a post sound production company with my best friend, and it's called Toxic Bag Productions. And I think we've 27 years we've been around. And we started back in the mid 90s, and we made sound effects for role-playing games.
Wow.
And
that's so cool.
Yeah. And because we were playing Call of Cthulhu, which is a horror themed role-playing game. And we were using movie soundtracks to kind of help set the mood while we're playing. And so we decided, hey, you know what? We should go one step further because, we're sound guys and we're smart people. And so we created all these like background ambiences. So if the game took place in a train station, we had a 3-minute train station background that you could play on your boombox, and it kind of helps set the scene, or the airport or the bar or wherever.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing 4 compact discs worth of sound effects because back then that's what you did.
Yeah.
Different genres. So we have fantasy, we have science fiction, we have modern, all this stuff. And that's how we started. And then we got in, and we're pretty much just a post house. We do lots of sound for film, for TV, small independent stuff, obviously, but we can do final mix, we can do Foley, we can do ADR, all that good stuff. And so that's kind of my into the biz, if you will. I've worked on a couple of horror films in my time. Did the makeup effects for one movie, just kind of produced some other ones, and so on. So a lot of fun experiences. Unfortunately, it's not enough to kind of pay the bills.
Right.
Sure.
Understand that.
Yeah. But and so that's kind of where we are right now. And if anyone's listening and they're interested, Toxic Bag, you can find all of our sound effects, or most of our sound effects, mostly on a website called drivethrurpg.com.
Okay.
And we sell a lot of them individually, so they're like 75 cents $1, that type thing. And so if anyone's out there interested, you can check it out. And just as an example of our work, back on the old Dolls of Horror podcast, which is where I met both of you ladies.
Yes.
Every episode, when you guys would discuss the cast, before you do that, Summer would say we had to take an ad break. and
Yep.
you guys would play this commercial, and it was for Aim for the Head podcast. Well, we made that, and the actors that are in it are all people I know, and that kind of thing. So that's
so cool.
So,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
yeah.
Yep. Awesome. And tell us about your love of Halloween 2. Why did
Oh my God.
the short version, why did you pick this movie? What is so special about Halloween 2 that sets it apart from the others?
Wow.
Yeah.
Gee, the short version, that's going to be interesting. I think because Halloween, the original Halloween, is such a masterpiece film.
Agreed.
Not just a great horror movie, just a great movie.
Totally.
And then like the last 50 years, one of the greatest movies in that time period, without a doubt, to me.
Yeah.
And then you go to Halloween 2, and it is so not. Yet almost all of the people that made Halloween are involved in Halloween 2, and it's a completely different animal. And it really kind of just is another slasher movie.
Yes.
And everything that made Halloween great and made Michael Myers so scary in the first movie is seemingly gone. And that just to me is very fascinating. And I think once you get into the backstory of Halloween and how John Carpenter and Deborah Hill basically made this movie because of a settlement of a lawsuit, and they were in pre-production on The Thing while they were in production for Halloween 2. So you totally know that they were spending zero time on Halloween 2 and letting Rick Rosenthal do whatever the hell he wanted to do.
Right.
And the movie kind of shows that, that it's not that great. And all of the alternate versions and all of the weird backstory about this movie, I just find infinitely fascinating. So I am ready to talk about it. What about you guys? Like what is about when you think of Halloween 2, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Okay, you know me in hallways. Like this one is a horror hospital hubba like fest.
Yes.
So many hallways. So I think of it as the movie with a lot of really great hospital hallways. I love it.
Lots of hallway delight in this one.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I agree with you. The reason I like it is because it's when Michael became a slasher. It's less suspenseful horror into I'm just I'm going to hit you in the head with a hammer. Type stuff.
Right.
So which I love slashers. So
there you go. Okay, cool.
So
I love this movie because, well, first off, the thing that comes to mind immediately when I think of this is Leo Rossi. Like,
yes,
I love Leo Rossi so much in this movie, and oh my God, I always think of the hot tub kill as my favorite kill in the movie, and it's like I still love it. I will put down everything I'm doing and watch that scene, no matter how many times I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, Jamie and I, we should have you sit down and watch Deep Red.
Oh, love Deep Red.
I have so many thoughts about this and that. Yes.
Because I was just side note, Argento, huge fan, and Suspiria is a movie that is in its own category. But most people say Tenebrae is like his masterpiece, and I totally disagree. I love Deep Red. Tenebrae is a great movie, but I love Deep Red. It is something about it. Some of the kills are so great. And of course, there is this moment where you're like, oh my God, John Carpenter ripped off Dario Argento. So.
I know. I know.
When I was watching Deep Red for the first time, the music was playing, and there's one section, like one little riff, and I'm just like, is that the Halloween theme song? I'm not saying he ripped it off. I'm saying he was inspired heavily by Argento.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then there's nothing wrong with borrowing. So that's
not at all.
Nope.
Not at all.
And just on your point of Leo Rossi, I love Leo Rossi in this movie. I think he is such a great actor in general. And if you guys have never seen The Accused, which is a Jodie Foster movie, it is. It's first of all, it's a great movie, and it's kind of like the legal version of I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where a woman gets raped by a bunch of guys, and rather than hunting them down and killing them all herself, like in that movie, she uses the legal system, and it like just barely works to give her some justice. But Leo Rossi is phenomenal in that movie as a total scumbag, but he's great.
Yeah.
And
Check that out.
I love him, but he is 1000% miscast in this movie. And I love his performance as Bud,
yeah.
but there is no way this like East Coast Jersey dude is like a paramedic in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, right? There's just no way. Okay, so, but
And he's
I
so
absolutely love him.
sleazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, but huge fan. You guys probably met him last year at Flashback, like when I did, and he
I'd
was
love
awesome.
to meet him.
He was very fun. Very fun.
Yeah, he is very fun. I met him years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago.
Wow, okay.
And, we're talking, and I'll show this little story in here. They know it. And, I picked my picture, and I'm like, he's like, okay, do you want it personalized? I'm like, well, yeah, of course. I like all my stuff personalized to me.
Right, sure.
So he's like, what do you want me to write on it? And he starts writing, and he writes, the Amazing Grace comes down on my face. And I was like, yeah, you can't write that. And he's like, why? I'm like, my mother's a pastor. He's like, okay. So he reaches over and gets another one. He's like, listen to old Bud. Here you go.
There you go. Right. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah,
That's
he
awesome.
did the same thing with me. He wrote the Amazing Grace line on my poster. So yeah, and
That's so good.
Just a delight. Super engaging. Can talk to anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was really cool.
Very nice guy.
Yeah. His panel last year with Nick
DiGilio.
Nick DiGilio. Oh my God. He had so many stories to tell. And you would not believe watching Halloween 2 that this guy had worked on so many big projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's worked with so many people in Hollywood. It's insane.
Yep.
And he's just got a bit role in this movie, but he's so sweet.
This was one of his earlier films. I think he did like Heart Like a Wheel with Bonnie Bedelia before this. So this was very early for him. So yeah. He and he's a youngster, and he's like one of the older cast members. So
yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump on into Halloween 2.
All right.
Right away, we've got that Mr. Sandman by the Cordettes playing, right? And we pick up immediately from where the last one left off, Haddonfield, October 31st, 1978. And we get a little bit of the recap of the first movie ending. Michael Myers falling out the window. He was shot 6 times, as we keep getting reminded over the next 15 minutes.
Although, interesting enough, in the theatrical version, he gets shot 7 times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 times with a 6-bullet low pistol.
Exactly.
So, yes, he does.
Yeah. Sure does. And we've got this great moment where Loomis, I can't remember if it's in the original or not, but when Loomis goes down to check where Michael is, Michael's gone, and he's got this great exchange with the neighbor. The neighbor's like, I'm trick-or-treated to death tonight. And Loomis like, you don't know what death is. And I'm like,
I was cracking up just reading that line on my notes. Like I crack up every time that he does it. Every time. Just reading it back to myself, I started.
Because for me, like that's the beginning of like kitschy Loomis. They do not hold that. It's great.
Yeah. And by the way, the voice you hear from the neighbor, that's Tommy Lee Wallace. Who is the production designer on this movie. And of course, he would go on to direct Halloween 3, in about 2 years from this. But yeah, he just dubbed it in post, right? So they didn't have to pay that dude who played the neighbor in the background. But yeah, it's so funny because he's like, you don't know what death is. And he turns around and runs away. You're like, what does that mean?
Right? That makes no sense, Loomis.
I love it. It's sassy and kind of gloomy and amazing.
I love all of Lewis's one-liners through both of the movies.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. He definitely deserves top billing in all of these movies that he's in.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we've got this fun new jack-o'-lantern sequence, of course. We've got the Halloween score. And then as the credits roll on, we've got the jack-o'-lantern opening, the skull, and then the cobwebs covering the skull. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. Yes. It's incredible.
Yes. Again, blew my mind in 1981 when
it still blows my mind. TV. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It still looks amazing. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. And we follow that with the POV shot from Michael's perspective, which is fantastic. He's skulking around the neighborhood. He kills the old lady. And
he kills the high school kid next door. He just takes the knife from the old from the
Miss Elrod.
Yeah.
I always got the impression that she was dead because she screams off camera, so I just assumed that he killed her.
One of my favorite shots in the movie is when it's like you imagine you're looking from the TV's point of view, and you have Mr. Elrond sleeping in the chair, and you have her standing behind him in the doorway, and then Michael is standing behind her. That is a wonderful setup.
Great setup, yeah.
And then what happens is she's like, "Are you asleep again?" or whatever she says, and then she backs up to her sandwich, and there's like blood all over the bologna. That I think is why she screams.
That makes sense.
And then the next door neighbor Alice comes out and is like, "Are you okay?" And then Michael goes, "Hey, I'll kill you," and so he does.
And that moment when because she's, of course, who's there? The door's open. She finds out that the killer's on the loose.
Yeah, I know.
And he literally just appears. He just pops out of nowhere. And the close-up on his face is, oh my God. So great.
Shout out to that great pink robe of horror too, guys. Like Miss Elrond or Elrod. She has a great pink robe of horror. Just got to point it out there.
Absolutely. And hey, the girl that she's talking to on the phone, her friend, that is voiced by Nancy Loomis.
Yes.
Who played Annie in the first movie. So they brought her back and said, "Can you mind reading these lines?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." So
I'll do it.
She's awesome.
Let me go ahead and cross that off my fun facts.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Dude.
No, that's all right. No problem. As long as the listeners get to hear it, I don't care who tells it. So
absolutely. Yep. So we see Lori. She's being taken to the hospital. She's still in her clothes from the original movie, of course. And
bad wig and all.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yes. And we see the paramedics arriving with Lori, and it's a great moment because you also see the kid from the first movie in the pirate costume with the bloody nose. It's like,
Well, he's that's that kid. He played Adrienne Barbeau's son in The Fog the year earlier.
He's a great kid.
The thing I find the most disturbing about that is that when he's brought in, he literally has a razor blade in his mouth, which I think is playing on the old urban legend of, people put the razor blades in the apples, right? This is what you guys think?
Yes. Absolutely.
And so they see the mixture and he fixes them up because they show a scene of them leaving, right?
Yes.
And the mom is like, "Oh, we'll go home and play some games." And I'm like, "No, you go to the police, you idiot.
Yes.
He ate a razor blade, right?
You need to report this, ma'am."
It's like, come on. And she's just like, "Oh, we'll go home and have fun."
It was the 80s, it's just like, it's fine. Let's just...
Right. A lot tougher kids back then. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Mother was like, some dirt in it.
Yeah, but that always bothered me that she is just so like, it's just whatever, it happens, I guess. And
no, it doesn't.
Yes.
It shouldn't be. Yeah. And we see Loomis and the sheriff. They're on the hunt for Myers, and we see someone in what looks to be Michael Myers' mask and outfit, but his hair, the mask's hair, is blonde. It's white blonde, and
he's carrying a bag of candy.
And he's carrying a bag of candy.
There's always that.
And he's clearly much shorter than the actual Michael Myers.
Yeah,
very short.
Yeah.
And so Loomis is chasing this kid down the street, and he's like running away because he's terrified because Loomis has a gun.
And all the onlookers are terrified too.
They're screaming. Yeah.
And then, boom! Out of nowhere, this police car going 60 miles an hour just shoves him into a van. It's great.
He blowed up.
He blowed up. He will not be returning for any of the sequels.
No.
Yeah. And the sheriff was like, "Is it him?" And Lou was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
We're gonna need some dental records, man.
Right.
Yeah. And we find out, the sheriff hasn't learned that Annie is dead yet.
No.
That's his daughter. So he finds out that Annie and the others from the last movie are dead. And so he sees his daughter's body, and he's like, "Why did you let him out? Why did you let this happen to Loomis?" Yeah, which is heart-wrenching.
It is. I always think it's a real interesting choice, and we can get in. I know the reason why, but look, that Brackett, his impulse at that point is, I got to go home and like tell my wife and be with her.
Right.
Where wouldn't you? I mean, to me, he's the sheriff of the town, and the dude that did this is still potentially out there. Yes. My impulse would be, I'm going to go hunt this SOB down and kill them right now. Definitely. But again, Carpenter had to get him out of there so Loomis could continue to do these amazing soliloquies again and have a new audience member listen to it and hunt. Because otherwise, halfway through of them, Brackett be like, "Shut up! You already told me this stuff in the last movie."
Yeah.
So,
But
But it's an interesting choice that he's like, I'm going to go be with my wife and comfort her rather than let's go find this guy and settle his hash.
Yeah. I always rationalized it as it was a conflict of interest because his daughter was killed by this guy, so he wouldn't be allowed to continue on with the case. That was just my rationalization of it.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, it could be.
That's a good rationalization.
But you are correct. Like, Carpenter definitely needed an excuse to get this guy off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
that's the real reason.
Yeah.
And, Charles Cyphers, after Loomis or after Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis, he is top billed in this movie and he's in it for like 12 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And we see Jimmy, one of the paramedics, he's checking on Lori quite frequently.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I think he really wants to check on Lori. So
I think he does. Yeah. I just have to say his curls are amazing. Okay, just had to be said.
Now, actually, I was going to ask you, James. Does that qualify to you as hot guy poof?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Okay,
it's a good one.
Absolutely.
And I think the scene looks really beautiful too, because they're in like this kind of like blue light in the room, and I just thought it was really gorgeous. Like, this movie's pretty.
It is very pretty.
Yeah.
And we see Myers, he's skulking around some more. And I love the moment where the guy is just carrying a boombox on his shoulder. And you've got the police like, "Oh, she was taken to the hospital." He's like, "All right, I know where to go now. Thanks." They never would have said that. But for the sake of the story.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of those very convenient television and news broadcasts that just happen to start at the exact perfect time.
Exactly.
Right. And you see a lot of these news reports in a Carpenter film, and it's one of the ways you can always distinguish a Carpenter film, in my opinion. And he's so great at that. He's so great at making it feel real to you. So, Leo Rossi, I had to mention it, the Amazing Grace moment, and he's flirting with all the nurses, and being sarcastic, and
and great.
He's just sitting around.
Yeah. Well, and his kind of messing with Janet, how she's like, "You don't have to swear all the time." He's like, "Yeah, sorry, I just fork up all the time." And she gives him that steely-eyed look, right? That side eye.
Gets up and leaves.
Yes, just like, go on,
Yeah, he's just like, get it. He's like a brother just teasing his sister.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
And Lori finds out from Jimmy that Michael Myers was the one who attacked her. She didn't know who her attacker was before this. Now she knows that it was Michael Myers.
No. But he's locked up in a hospital somewhere.
Yeah. No, he got out last night. What? Yeah. And this security guard, Mr. Garrett. Oh my God.
Mr. Garrett.
He definitely learned his name real fast.
I know.
Yeah. What I love is that this movie, we always refer to them as cat scares. You guys talk about them as jump scares. But in this movie, it is actually a cat scare. I mean, some stagehand throws a cat at this dude when he opens the dumpster,
Yeah.
And I feel like you don't get those all that often, like a literal cat scare.
Right,
like,
literal cat scare.
We're throwing cats here, guys. Like, that doesn't happen all that often.
And it's so true to life because cats are constantly jumping at people,
I know.
One of our episodes a couple weeks back, one of my cats, Luna, jumped on my chair at the end of our episode. I'm like, all right. And Luna says goodbye too. Thanks.
What was that? I don't remember. Was that the cat people one?
No, that was Urban Legends.
That would have been really appropriate.
That would have been great if she
That would have been great.
So Mr. Garrett finds out the phone lines are down because one of the nurses she tries to call out. And so Mr. Garrett is going outside to fix the phone lines. And he sees a lock was broken off of one of the storage rooms. And of course, he's got to go investigate because it is his job.
Right.
Yeah, but at this moment, I don't think he realizes he's in a horror movie yet.
He has no clue.
He does not know.
So that why would he be afraid? He's like, no, I'm going to see what's going on. It's probably kids, kids and
exactly.
drugs.
It's Halloween night. It's kids and drugs.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm just going to say it now. I'd be a horrible security guard, guys. Once I had the cat scare happen, I'd be like, I'm done. I'm done for the night.
I'm going back in.
Back inside. Lock the doors.
We've all seen too many horror movies to be a security guard.
Yeah.
Because we'd hear a noise, we'd be like, fuck that.
Nope.
Gotta go.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're on their own.
Right?
Yeah.
But if he would have done that at this point, it wouldn't have felt real. Because why would you make that jump? There's nothing. He's seen no evidence that anything weird's. My friends and I, we came up with this theory of the best horror movies. They really that every character in a horror movie has a moment where they realize they're in a horror movie, right?
Oh yeah,
and it's usually right before they die. But when that moment happens is key to how good the movie is. Because if it happens too early, like we just said, it doesn't make any sense. If the movie opens and Jamie goes into the kitchen and she hears a noise in the main room and her first thought is ghost, serial killer, zombie, or whatever, you're like, why? Why would you think that?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if it goes too long, that doesn't work either. So, when half your friends are gone and your first choice is let's go skinny dipping, doesn't work, And the best horror movies are the ones that nail it, where the characters get it right at the right moment, where they've seen just enough to be like, uh-oh, I'm screwed. And those are the ones you love the best.
Absolutely.
That's an excellent theory too. Thank you. I loved that. And I totally agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, feel free to spread it out there because
it
applies to almost every horror movie. When do you think each character has that moment of, oh shit, I'm in a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
3 seconds before they turn around and see the guy standing behind them.
Right. Or you walk backwards and then someone jabs a needle into your temple.
Yep.
Exactly.
Janet, the gal who plays Janet, she nails it in this movie. That when she spins Mixture around and he's got the syringe in the eyeball, which ouch, right?
Yeah.
That moment when she does this, internally she's like, I'm screwed.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Mr. Garrett dies, hammer to the head. Oof. Not a good way to go.
Yeah.
So. And then we,
I love the little fake out by Michael Myers here too. What we were saying is him as a slasher, really. I mean, he set up a whole little fake out, had a little bit of fun with the security guard.
He did.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely playing with his victims for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the police, they're ordering for everyone to search for Michael Myers, every house, every backyard, whatever it takes. They need to find him. And we see the townspeople, they're destroying Myers' house, reminiscent of upcoming installments of Halloween. We won't name names.
Although, just side note, the third one, Halloween Ends. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. The subplot, the plot with the kid and how he kind of I thought that was great. And all the other stuff with Jamie Lee and Michael, I was like, ugh, get rid of that. You know what I mean? But those movies, oh my God, were they bad? It was really hard to watch the first two and not be like, yeah. I don't know what you guys have thought about them, but I was massively disappointed.
Oh, if I ever see David Gordon Green, I'm just going to be like, I'm going to buy you a coffee, but we're going to sit down.
Yeah. Sit down.
And we're
going to have a talk.
And we're going to sit down for 6 hours because you owe me 6 hours of my life back.
I'm not getting it back. Yeah.
Exactly.
I appreciate the effort, but wow.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't see much of an effort, but that's just me. Yeah.
See, that's how I feel about Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, he's a really good musician.
That I agree with 110%.
I do too.
Yes. Yes. He cannot write women's dialogue at all.
No.
I don't like the Halloween new movies. The reason I bought this shirt is because Halloween is over in my mind. Like it's ended.
Like, I just want to make this.
She literally said that. I was with her when she
did.
bought it, and she was like, "I hate the movie, but Halloween is literally ended for me." She
Dead
said,
to me.
"So I'm gonna buy the shirt." So,
Yeah.
He was my favorite slasher, and now I'm just like I still love the original movies. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I love quite a few of them, but like it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth whenever somebody mentions the new ones. I'm like,
Yeah, I agree.
No,
Absolutely
yeah.
agree.
Yeah. But moving back to this movie, we have one of my favorite moments, Karen and Leo Rossi, because I don't call Leo Rossi by his character's name. It's Leo Rossi.
It's Leo Rossi.
Yes.
Right.
They are making out in the patient's room because he buzzes and she thinks it's a patient calling for help, and it's not. So they have a little tussle, and she pretends to be annoyed with him. But how could he be mad with Leo Rossi?
Come on.
Yeah, another like jump scare, right?
Exactly.
That she comes in and he kind of gets you just jump, and everyone kind of, oh, okay, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just setting you up, people.
Yeah.
Because literally 5 minutes later, they're in the hot tub, the hydrotherapy room, and they're ready for some sexy time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. And it gets hot in there fast.
Yes, it does.
Ooh, it sure does.
Yeah. So we've got Myers sneaks up on them. He's increasing the temperature in the pool. Karen asks him to go check the temperature because things can get really cold really fast between them if he doesn't. Love that line.
Cold in here.
Yeah,
it can get cold in here. He's like, okay,
I'll go take care of that.
Yeah. And we've got that great scene where she's getting out of the tub and she's drying herself off and patting herself dry as we see him being strangled in the background by Michael. Yeah.
So beautiful. Like, I love that kill so much. This double kill is really amazing. If I had to pick a favorite in the movie, it's probably this little double kill that we get here.
Okay.
So good.
Yeah, this is definitely mine.
I agree. The staging of it is phenomenal, and Dean Cundy as your DP, the dude knows what he's doing, right? I mean, he's won Oscars and worked with amazing directors and stuff. But interestingly enough, this scene is often used, I don't know if you guys have heard this, as evidence from groups that attack horror movies and say that they're just they're like misogynistic and they're just excuses to torture and kill women. And the reason they use this scene is that just what you said, Bud goes into the background. He's behind a fogged glass window, so he's not even in focus. He is killed in about 3 seconds, and it's in silence. You don't hear him struggle at all, so it's pretty quick. Then Michael comes back in, and we have the whole, she's like kissing his arm and doesn't see the overalls and doesn't know it's
sucking
him.
on his finger.
But then when she does, and then he basically drowns her in a very torturous, agonizing death into the scalding water. This is the example that a lot of these groups in the 80s, and again, you guys probably don't remember this, but a lot of parent groups got involved with music and video and movies in the 80s saying that they were too out of control. And this was the example. This scene was often used as Exhibit A of like, see, the boy gets killed like that in the background in the quiet, and the girl is, first of all, naked, and she's tortured and then killed. So I see their point, but I totally disagree because there's a lot of very pretty naked boys that get butchered in horror movies as well.
And I can
all
see
the time.
I can see their point, but here, my child shouldn't watch that. Well, then parent your child and don't let them watch it, and let us who want to watch it or allow our children. Let me parent the way I want. You don't let your kids do that, and stay the hell out of my business. I mean,
yeah.
See, that's way too logical. That'll never work.
I can't. No.
Those types of people, they have to control everything for everybody. Okay, like no. So gotta ruin it.
Beautiful kill scene. Absolutely. I think it's kind of the scene from the movie most people think of when they think of Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Sure. Just throwing my 2 cents in. My favorite kill in the movie is actually Mrs. Alves. because we don't see it. We just see the aftermath, and just the fact that he just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna like strap you down on the table and just drain all your blood away. That was very cool to me.
Yeah.
But this is right there, obviously, and I love it because it's a little bit of a callback to PJ Souls, Linda, and Bob sequence in the first movie where he comes in with the sheet and the glasses and all that. So but yeah, and again, the way it looks, the way they set it up, it's wonderful.
And like the effect, like her like skin all like scalded. It's amazing. It's so good. Like when you get her final like pull out of the water, you're like, oh, that is good.
Yeah. I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we go back to Loomis and the police. They discover that Michael Myers was at the school at some point in the evening. He's, drawn some pictures, vandalized some things a little bit. So, and
using Celtic words.
Yes.
Like you do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why not?
Visit the school, write some words.
He was very busy that night.
Yeah, he was.
I know a lot of the scholar type folks have chimed in on this because Loomis pronounces the word as Samhain, which sounds really cool. Right. But I guess the correct pronunciation is Suain. Yeah. Even though it's spelled S-A-M. And so a lot of people are like, yeah, that's not how you say it. But I always love it. I think of the Festival of Samhain. I love that whole speech that he gives about it. And oh my God, is Donald Pleasance not just born to do those little soliloquies about evil and darkness and walls and all the stuff that he talks about? So
they're my favorite. They're my favorite part of the movies. Like they really are. Every time that he has one of his speeches, I'm just like, I'm gonna play that back. I'm just gonna watch that one more time.
Absolutely. And like the devil's eyes and all that. And we're afraid of the darkness in ourselves. I mean, there's so amazing stuff, right? And all that's Carpenter. He wrote all of Loomis's stuff. So that's all straight from John Carpenter.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Absolutely brilliant. Beautiful. And we have this woman that shows up, and what was her name again?
Marion Chambers.
That's right, Marion Chambers. She shows up.
The nurse from the first movie.
The first one. Yep, at the very beginning. And she tells Loomis that he's been ordered to return to Smith's Grove. And
by the governor.
By the governor. Pretty big deal.
Top of the heap there. The governor.
Hey, even Loomis is impressed. He's like, well, governor. Well,
okay.
Yeah. And there's a marshal outside waiting to escort him, so he has no choice in the matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's insane. But, basically Loomis is being blamed for this, even though he insisted that they not release him, not transfer him, all that. So,
he's like, did you not hear one of my mini speeches here? I told you.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's the guy that for years and years has been screaming, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. And yet when he gets away, that he's now the scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's easy to blame his personal doctor.
Sure.
So, yeah.
He should have known better. I did know better.
Yeah.
You're the one that listening. Yes. Yeah. And we've got the nurse. She's checking on Lori. And Lori is not doing so well. She just randomly, stops breathing, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she's just like, doctor. It's like, you aren't trained in CPR or anything. Like, you can't do anything.
Wait for the doctor.
Yeah.
Wait for the doctor. Yeah. And God knows how far the doctor's office is from this room,
Yeah.
And apparently in the whole hospital, there's only one friggin' doctor.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is definitely a point that I want to get to, which is like reasons why this movie kind of fails. And one of them is the hospital is the most unbelievable hospital in the world.
Absolutely.
If you want, we can talk about it now.
Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, I wouldn't say everybody, but almost everyone has been to a hospital for one reason or another. And the one thing about hospitals, no matter where you go, there's always a million people there.
Yes.
Right?
Always.
And what is there a million of? There's always a million custodial janitor people that are constantly mopping the floors and wiping the walls and emptying the trash. And in this hospital, there are none of those people.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah.
And think about it. Like you said, Ethan, there's one doctor and he was out drinking before his shift.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you have three nurses. You have Mrs. Alves, you have Jill and Karen. And there, I'm guessing, are like full nurses. And then Janet, because she kind of wears a different uniform. So I kind of get her as like maybe like an intern nurse or a student nurse or like not quite there. And then you have Mr. Garrison, the one security guy, and then the 2 paramedics.
Yeah.
That's it for that. And that hospital has 2 wings, multiple stories, a working nursery, and 2 operating suites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the most unbelievable place ever. And I think that really hurts the credibility of this movie, because you're just like, where are they? That this is all that's there. So yeah, that is one of the huge problems. But again, John Carpenter had to write this script, and he had to make Laurie Strode be isolated so Michael Myers can do his thing.
Right.
So if he writes a true representation of a hospital, she's going to be surrounded by people all the time. Right. How is it going to work?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. The governor should shut that hospital down.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I know it's fictional. Haddonfield doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. But the governor of Illinois won't do crap about anything.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't a political talk. Let's go.
Yeah, we won't go about that. Anyways, the nurse, she goes to Dr. Mixler's office, and she's like, Dr. Mixler. And, his chair turns around. He's been stabbed. He's dead. And she gets stabbed with a needle to the temple. Great.
It is
so good.
I love again, this is Dean Cundy working his magic, because the light from the aquarium is so awesome. How Mixter is in shadow and the slow spin around. I mean, first of all, when he's not moving, aren't you just like, oh my God, he's so dead, right? But she's like gonna spin him around anyway. At that point, I'd be like, I don't need to see this. I'm leaving.
Yeah, I know.
Same.
But the spin around, and then there's the needle, and again, like we said earlier, that's when Janet has her. This is a horror movie, isn't it? And again, we get that sort of materializing out of the darkness moment behind her of Michael, which is, again, it's a fantastic, amazing sequence. Absolutely.
It's gorgeous.
That's where you really it's kind of a callback to the first one where, he just, it's complete blackness behind her. And then all slowly you see his mask, and it's like the shape.
Yes.
The shape.
The shape is there. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful shot.
It is.
So Michael, he goes to Laurie's room, and he's stabbing the bed, and she
stabs a bunch of pillows.
Like you do. Yep. And so he just calmly, as you do, slowly just walks away.
And I think too, isn't Laurie having these weird flashback moments of visiting Michael in the asylum that she's suddenly remembering somehow?
Right.
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're kind of giving you piecemeal the idea that, hey, maybe there's something more to Michael and Laurie than we have so far been led to believe.
Right.
Something's up with these two.
Something is going on here. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't know yet just what that might be. But yeah, we see the other nurse. She finds Laurie's bed empty, and she starts to go searching for her. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Laurie's just walking down one of Jamie's hallways.
That's right.
And
there are so many, Jamie. Ever since I learned of your obsession with Hallway Delight, every time I see a horror movie, I'm like, yep, there's Hallway Delight. But this movie, I mean, you just must love to watch this movie because there's so much of it.
There is. And the nice thing is there's a variety of hallway kind of shots, because, you have your great hallway shots where it's you have your character and they're on a journey, they're going somewhere. There's something at the end, right? Then you have these moments where it's just hallway. And so your mind starts to search the hallway, where you're like, is Michael down there? Where are people? Is the camera going to move? So you get everything I love about hallways. You get each example in this movie. It's a master class in hallways.
Yeah, it is. It is. I love there are some long shots of the hallways, and Michael or someone will come in at the very end.
Yes.
And it's just stuff you don't see a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's Rick Rosenthal, you know, the director. I mean, that was his vision to put that in there. And I also love where you'll see a shot and it'll be the hallway, and then the camera will kind of like tilt down to the security camera, and you see that hallway from a different angle. And there's some really clever stuff in there, and it's fascinating to watch. And I am now in the habit of the same thing. When I see those like empty hallways, I'm like, what am I supposed to be seeing here? Where's the bad thing gonna jump out from, you know?
Yes,
exactly. It like triggers your mind into that like state of like that protecting yourself state. You're like, there's something here, I don't see it, but there's something down at the end there has to be. So
that's
so good.
I also love the moments where it happens every once in a while where the camera focuses on the circle mirrors in the corners. And you just see the character's reflection in the mirror as they're walking down the hallway. And it's so beautiful.
I love those too.
Yeah. So Laurie's walking down the hallway. She finds a phone. She doesn't know that the phones aren't working. And she's just like, you know what? Here's as good a place as any. She just curled up in a little ball and just kind of falls.
She is like tripping balls at this point.
Yeah.
She's so pumped full of drugs. Yeah. And she like tries to call her mom, and she's like, Mom, you won't die, and all this crazy stuff. Oh yeah.
I mean, what else would you do? She's what, 17 at this point in the movie? Yeah. So she's doing
had a little trauma. She's definitely going to have to go into therapy at some point.
Here. Yeah, she's doing everything she can to stay awake, and it's just So she falls asleep, and then we get a sequence of lots of shots of the security cameras, like you guys were mentioning, and then we've got the nurse looking for Mr. Garrett. She doesn't know what's happened to him, and another cat scare bumps into Jimmy.
Well, again, with the cameras, we see on the monitor, Michael goes into this one room, and then she goes right to that room and opens the door, and you think, well, this is it for her. And then Jimmy does the like hand off camera, and he's like, oh, sorry. It's like, what are you doing? You don't do that.
I know.
But
these are not as they appear in this hospital.
So, but and again, they kind of fool you, and then you get that great silhouette shot of Michael behind the curtain that we can see, but somehow they can't. That's like maybe it's that guy over there. But and so he overhears, Jimmy saying, you keep looking here, I'm going to look in the other wing, and if you don't find anybody, get in your car and go drive to the sheriff's station or whatever. And she, I always appreciate it when people are given really good ideas in horror movies, and then they actually try and do them. Because most of the time they don't. They're like, no, I don't have to do that. But she's like, yeah, you know what? Me leaving, that's a really good idea. And she tries to, right? But, the tires are all slashed and the car won't start. Michael's clearly made it, so nobody's getting out of there. But at least she tries,
Right.
Yeah.
She really tries. And, Laurie, she starts walking. She's awake and she starts walking again. And this nurse, she tried to leave. She isn't leaving. She comes back in. She sees Laurie, and she's like, Laurie! But she doesn't know she's in a horror movie because Michael's standing right behind her.
Yeah.
And lifts her while stabbing her with a scalpel.
Yes. But one of the iconic Halloween horror moments when both of her shoes fall off at the end of her kill.
I know. I was just going to say, I love those little details with kills. So like the shoes falling off. We just did Friday the 13th and Mama Voorhees' hands moving after the head gets cut off. I love those little fun little the body's going to do something, right? Or shoes are going to fall off from that angle. Love it.
Yeah. And great attention to detail.
That actress, Tawny Wells, I think is her name. She has said in interviews that initially that was not in the script, and they thought of it on set, and she was like, I'm not sure, I don't see it, but they're like, just do it. And now she's like, oh my God, everybody talks to me when she goes to shows and stuff about how great it is that her shoes fall off, and it's an iconic moment in horror. It is.
There's no way around it.
It actually steps up the kill so much. It steps up the whole moment, and it's such a small thing, but it would be different if the shoes didn't fall off. It wouldn't be the same.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now we've got this great chase sequence between Michael and Laurie. You know, he's after her and all that. And Laurie gets away to the parking lot and she's hiding in the car, right?
Yep. But yet you have to mention she does run the horror movie obstacle course where she encounters this carefully staged bodies.
Right.
So that happens
Mr.
as
Garrett, and yes, all
Yep.
that. That's fantastic.
I love me chase scenes as well. And this is like you said, it's got all the classic kind of moments, you know, it's like she's got to take care of stairs. She's got to get out a window, which she does in just the nick of time, you know, and kind of like crawl below. And then there's the elevator, right? Where she's like pushing the elevator, like, come on.
And then he sticks his hand in and it closes and it just doesn't hit the thingy to open it back up like it would for us. Cause you know, we'd get killed right there in real life.
I know.
Yeah.
The only thing that was missing was her dropping a set of keys. That's it.
That would have been it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like fumbling, like trying to get the right key to open the door, you know? Yeah. Either way. Yeah.
I do that when I'm not even stressed about anything. I'm just like, where's the right key?
That is how I am dying in a horror movie, guys. Like keys, every single time I have keys in my hand, it takes like a whole 10 minutes. If I have too much stuff in my hands, it's done, you know? So I'm like, that's it. That's how I'm dying in a horror movie, guys.
Absolutely.
A true moment for me, when I was living in a different apartment and the power went out at night. And so I went down into the basement to find the circuit breaker box to see if like just the circuits blew. And I could not find a flashlight. So literally I took a pack of matches with me because that's all I had. And it was like super late. And I'm like, I want to see. So I'm down there with the match, right? And literally, I mean, this is straight out of horror movie. Literally, it burned down to my fingers. And I went, and I dropped the matchbook on the floor. I'm in a basement. It is pitch dark. And you know, in those movies where people are like, I can't find it. Where's my and I'm literally, I could not find that stupid matchbook. So it can happen, right? I'm like, I'm gonna die in this basement right now. Why? Because I'm an idiot, you know? Yeah, true story.
Oh my god. I love that so much.
No.
Now we finally get the big reveal that Laurie is Michael Myers' sister.
Yes. How do you guys feel about this?
I'm torn. I'm kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
It depends on what movie I'm watching.
Yeah, I know, really. I don't know. It's hard for me too, because like on one half, I'm like, I get it, you know, like it makes sense to like try and tie these two together in that way. I'm also somebody who kind of likes my killers to be a bit of an enigma too. So I'm actually pretty cool with the idea of like, why her? Like, why? And not knowing. Right. You know what I mean? I kind of dig that. So I don't know.
I agree. I think it would be better, especially with this movie. They didn't need a reason. They could have just been like, he's finishing the job. Like that's, you know, he started something, he needs to finish it. Like, who cares?
Yeah, and I like both of them. I can see both points. And I would have been okay with the brother-sister thing had they stopped it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been it. You know, no 4, 5, 800, you know, offsprings and all of that. If it would have stopped it too, I'd have been like, okay, great. I get it. But going on, I'm like, it was a little much. So
I'm not a fan.
No.
I do not like this. And I think I should augment that or adjust it. I'm okay with it. The one thing I'm not okay with is there's absolutely no way that Loomis doesn't know this.
Absolutely.
When they show a flashback of like 8-year-old Laurie visiting Michael in the asylum, how does Sam Loomis, who is obsessed with Michael Myers, not know every person that comes to visit him and signs in and what their story and has to approve it and so on? There's no way that he's like, I didn't know that. No, of course you would. That bothers me more than the brother and sister thing. I mean, it's soapy. There's no doubt. I mean, it's like, when's the evil twin going to show up? Right. And I get it. It's fine. I just, he would have known. There's no way he would. That kills it for me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And that's a good point. Like, it is kind of upsetting because, like, when they mention, like, the secret file and the whole thing anyway, I'm like, how? Like, there's, no way.
He's his doctor. How would he not know everything about his family? And no, no way.
Yeah.
He's the one person who would have that file. Like, he should be the person who has to sign off on the paperwork.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, madness.
So at this point, Loomis realizes that exactly where Michael is and has been the entire evening. He is at the hospital. He's after Lori. So he hijacks the car basically, and he's like, he gets the gun and he points it at the marshal, and he's like, "We're going to the hospital. Like, I don't care. This is what we're doing."
Yeah.
And so they turn the car around. They're heading towards the hospital. Meanwhile, Jimmy. Oh, I forgot to mention, Jimmy, finds the nurse and the blood is drained and everything, and he slips on the blood.
Oh, cracks his head big time.
Yeah.
I always get a kick out of Jamie's scenes because, this and leading up to all this, he's like, I'm going to do anything to protect you and all of this. And the one moment where we need him the most, freaking
he slips.
He slips and cracks his head.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there's like 3 liters of blood on the floor. So,
And what beautiful blood it is.
Oh, very cinematic red. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is.
And like I said, that to me, that's my favorite kill moment is the whole discovery, the fact that he sees the light on through the window, and that's what causes him to go back and look in there. And then he's like, what the he's oh my God. And then the fact that he turns to leave, because I always get the idea that he's like, oh crap, Lori's in real trouble.
Yeah.
Because clearly I think he puts it together there that Mike is here. And Mike this is why everyone else has vanished and disappeared. Because remember when he meets Jill, when he does the cat scare, he's like, Mrs. Alves is gone, Bud's gone. We can't find anybody. So I think the math all adds up for him when he finds the body. And he's like, I got to help Lori. And he turns to run because we see him running down the hallways a lot in the movie. And, sure enough, that's the one time his shoes don't get any traction. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Other than that moment, though, Employee of the Year at the hospital, I think, goes to Jimmy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He's holding it down there, man.
Yeah.
He knows he's in a horror movie before anybody else does, besides Lori. But yeah. So Jimmy, he finds Lori. She's in the car, and he's gonna help her, get away. But before he can, of course, poor guy, he's exhausted and just passes out.
Well, okay, that's the question. Do you think he passes out, or do you think he dies?
I don't think he dies. Because there's different endings.
I was going to say it depends on which ending you're going with.
Yes, you're correct. First, and also, are you going to say that Halloween 4 and 5 are real parts of this show? Because Jimmy's last name is Lloyd, and then that explains Jamie Lloyd in part 4. That's Laurie Strode and Jimmy Lloyd's daughter. So clearly he has to survive part 2 if they're going to hook up and have a kid. So, but I always take it because my personal view on watching Halloween movies is just watch the original because the rest of them aren't really that very good. That's just my take. 4 and 5 have little bits that I love. 3 is a totally separate animal that I think is a fantastic movie, but I do not include it in this conversation.
Right.
Because it's not a Michael Myers movie at all.
It's not.
Wow, I forget what I was going to say. In terms of Jimmy, I go with the idea that if it's just 1 and 2, he dies.
He dies,
That's he's got a massive brain thing, and he just gives up the goat right there.
Yeah, because he hit his head pretty hard when he fell, so it would make sense that he died.
And the way that he falls forward onto the horn and stuff, the way he fell forward, that was pretty permanent. I mean, it wasn't just oh, I feel no, it was boom, he's dead. If it weren't for the rest of the series, he's dead.
Yeah. Also kind of a little bit of a callback to Annie. When
Yep.
Annie dies in the original, and how her head kind of hits the horn for a bit, right? Which again is a fun little moment. But yeah, I was really interested in what you guys thought about that, and I totally want to get into the alternate versions because that's part of why I'm totally freaked out and obsessed about this movie. But without even knowing about the alternate versions, I wanted to get your idea of did he live or did he die? Because I'm always believed since I first saw it that he dies.
That was my thought too.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do agree with you. I think that if you just look at the first two, he's definitely dead.
Yeah.
But it's just a convenience on the part of 4 and 5. They had two to look back at. So they're like, all right, who else would she hook up with and have a kid with?
Right.
But this guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And you know what? She makes like a conscious decision to like leave at that point, like leave the vehicle and everything. I think if he was alive and there was like a semblance of life, she might have like had a moment or two at least more to like be like, can you wake up? Can you come? You know what I mean? Like something. But I think she knew he was dead.
Yeah, I agree.
He's done.
Yeah. Very good point.
Yeah.
So, she pushes him off the steering wheel and we see, because she's crawling out of the car. She cannot walk. Like barely at all. And Loomis is arriving and he's just off in the distance, which is a great setup. And, they're all going into the hospital and she's just crawling on the ground. She's just like, help, and they can't hear her. And, oh, God.
Well, I just love that she finally musters up the ability to scream right when they close the door. So she's like, oh, and then she's like, help me. You're like, oh, my God, woman, get out of there.
Yeah. You just feel for her so badly. Yeah. So, Loomis is just bossing everybody around. He's telling the marshal to go search these rooms on the first floor. And, Michael shows up in the parking lot. He's chasing Lori as she's running to the door. And Lori's trying to get into the hospital because, of course, it's locked on the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Loomis lets her in. And he's just in disbelief that in the condition that she's in, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. And Loomis, he sees Michael, he shoots him, and he falls down. And we think that he might be done.
Michael walks through the
He walks through the door.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with a plate glass of any kind, but you cut yourself to shreds if you go through that. I mean, he would have just been
a bloody mess.
Yeah, but it's a really cool scene how he just kind of goes through it, and then Loomis empties another 6 rounds into him. So, I mean, have you ever done like a wound count for Michael Myers in these 2 movies? How many times he's shot 12 times? He's stabbed in the neck with a needle, poked in the eye with an coat hanger, and stabbed in the chest with a butcher knife, and he falls off a 2nd-story balcony. The dude is like the Energizer Bunny, all right?
Yeah. There's no stopping him.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I really love the attention to detail in this movie, in that if you see the long shots of Michael, you can see the bullet holes throughout his body and stuff. So, I mean, they're doing at least trying to represent, this guy, this whatever he is, he's been beat up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And so the marshal, he sees Michael laying on the ground. He just starts to approach the body, and Luke's like, "Don't go near him. Leave him alone."
Idiot.
Like, I've seen this shit before.
That's right.
Officer, have you ever seen a horror movie? Ever?
Yeah, right.
Obviously, Michael is not dead, and
of course.
He kills the marshal. Loomis and Lori, they go into the surgery room, and they try to keep him from getting in, and of course that's not going to work. But Loomis gives Lori the handgun so she can kind of try to defend herself. And great moment where they are, trying to trick him after she blinds him, of course, which great aim on Lori's part.
Two more bullets to the eyes.
Yeah.
Two more bullets to the eyes.
That's 14 rounds the man has been shot with in 2 movies.
Yeah. He can't see.
Right.
Yeah. So he's just like doing this
Yeah, blindly
with the
slashing
knife,
at her. Yeah.
and they start, turning on the oxygen tanks or whatever it is, and
And
anesthesia
the
tanks.
ether and
Yeah. Which if you inhale enough of that, you're gonna pass out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's shot with a pretty big gun.
Yeah.
So if you were shot, the top of your head would come off.
Wouldn't you
Oh
think?
yeah.
And she shoots him from like 10 feet. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like almost
Oh,
point
yeah.
blank range. But
Yeah.
you know, it's Michael Myers, so
Yeah.
he's like, yeah. What else you got?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And Lori, runs out of the room based off of, Loomis's instructions, of course. And Loomis gets the idea to set the fire, basically. Right.
Ignite the gas.
Yep.
Ignite the gas. Yep. And Loomis is in there with him.
Yeah, using the lighter that Hunt conveniently gives him when they smoke the only cigarette any of them smoke in the whole movie.
I know.
Very rare for the Carpenter film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lori is, she's out of the hospital or whatever, and Michael is on fire. And he's just walking out of the room like nothing.
Still coming after her. Like,
Yeah.
what else you got?
Yeah. It's simply a flesh wound. Like,
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I've had worse.
Yeah.
And finally he falls down, and we assume this is finally the end. We hope.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that's John Carpenter, who, again, did not want to make this movie at all. And so I think when he was writing this movie, he's like, okay, I'm going to end this way so that there will never be another Halloween movie. And again, that's just completely underestimating every other movie producer out there. Like, yeah, we can undo whatever you did.
Yeah.
Right.
And, and really in part 4, they just don't even acknowledge that he burned up. He's just there.
Yep.
So
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't even bother explaining it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't. It's just like, no, he's back. But I definitely think that's Carpenter being like, yeah, screw you guys. I'm never going to make this movie ever again.
Right.
Because not only am I going to have him get stopped, I'm going to blow him up and then burn him to death.
Right.
Yeah.
And jokes on him.
Right.
I was gonna say, we'll see how that works for you.
I mean, in one regard, he was correct. He will not make another one. So.
Yeah.
But and it's funny because he kind of laughs about it now in the last like 30 years, because like people will come to him and be like, hey, we want to make a Halloween movie, and he's just like, send me a check.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you go ahead and do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. Just pay me.
Yep.
And he's just living off the money, and God bless him.
Totally.
It takes a lot of anybody's restraint to allow somebody else to take their vision and something that they really enjoyed making, and let them have basically all creative freedom with it. So
yeah.
Kudos to him. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm sure the money doesn't hurt.
Right.
Yeah, the money doesn't hurt either.
Absolutely.
But you can have my creative vision. I had it over here. Pay me.
Right. Yeah. And everybody can agree that it's mine that's the best. So
well, and I think he kind of has that, in the back of his head. It's like, no one's going to be able to top that first movie,
right?
No matter what. So go ahead, do whatever you want. All it's going to do is make my movie look better.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Lori, we've got the final shot of the movie. She's in the wheelchair. She's being taken to another hospital, we assume, because she is
a better, less blown up hospital.
Yeah.
With hopefully more staff that can protect her.
There are 2 doctors at this point.
Yeah.
And also, did you notice it's like The Fog Part 2? I mean, the ambulance drives away into this, like, they're in the fog. It's crazy.
Yeah. And we've got that great, the opening music is also the closing music. Mr. Sandman begins to play as Lori. We just see Lori having an existential crisis in the van.
She's got that like 1,000-yard stare from Vietnam. I mean, she's
great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and if you exclude the part 4 and part 5 and just jump to H2O, which is like 19 years away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can see how Laurie Strode in the ambulance and Laurie Strode, the teacher, they're the same person, because
absolutely,
you just have the years between those 2 moments, but it's the same gal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. That is the movie of Halloween 2, 1980.
Oh my God.
What a great movie.
So great. So great and so terrible at the same time.
That's it. It's so bad it's good.
So we'll
Right.
have Ethan share some of his fun facts and trivia, and then Steve, if you have anything else, please chime in.
I do. I have a theory that I want to lay out to you guys.
Ooh.
And I'm not going to claim ownership. I'm sure much smarter people than I have thought of this already, but I want to give it to you and see what you guys think.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, well, I do have a few fun facts. We already hit some of them throughout the show, so I can go ahead and cross those out. Originally, this was supposed to be set after part one. It's supposed to be like 3 or 4 years later. Yep. And Laurie's supposed to be in her own house in a high rise. And as they were writing it, they were like, no, this doesn't make any sense. So they went back to the original night and went from there. John Carpenter does say that he regrets making them brother and sister.
Yes, he does.
I was like, okay, well, you did it, dude. I don't know what to tell you. So you can regret it if you want to.
Yeah.
Part 2 was supposed to be the end of Michael Myers, according to John Carpenter. That's exactly like you said, why Loomis and Michael got kaboom, and that was supposed to be it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wasn't thinking there was going to be any more. The mask from part 2, although it does not look like part 1's mask, it is actually a mask from part 1.
Yep.
But obviously there's different actors and the size of their face and everything is different, so it looks different on them.
Yeah.
Rick Rosenthal originally directed this, and he wanted it to be more, like the first movie, and less gory and less violent.
Yes. More lighting and music and suspense than on-screen gore.
Absolutely. And Carpenter said no, and reshot it with the dark and the gore and the slasher and the nudity. And Rick Rosenthal was pissed about it. He hates it.
He wanted his name taken off the movie when it happened.
Absolutely.
I've seen him interviewed recently, like in the last 15 years, and he's kind of made peace with it now and is more on board with it's our movie and we made it. So
that's good.
Dick Warlock got the job when he went in to talk to Rick Rosenthal, and he was going in and there was a Myers mask, so he put it on and went into the interview. And as he was interviewing him and asking him questions, he didn't say anything. He just stared at him and gave him that creepy Michael Myers thing. And he was like, all right, you're hired. Which I did not know that until I researched it. And I thought that was just, that was fun. Awesome. And the last thing, which we can probably jump back into now, is the different versions.
Yes.
The Rick Rosenthal, because at the end of, this movie, the director's cut or Carpenter's cut or whatever, we know how it ends. Well, the TV one, when Jamie's being put in, Jamie Lee Curtis, when Laurie's being put in the ambulance.
One more catch here.
Jimmy is in the ambulance with her, and she's like, "We survived, we made it," and then they pull off,
and they hold hands, they grab hands, and it is. And again, that ending explains 4 and 5. The lineage of
absolutely.
4 and 5. But I can't. First of all, I can't believe that you didn't mention that Dana Carvey is in this movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes. That's right.
What? Hold up. Who is he?
That's right. He is one. There are all these journalists milling around the murder house and Michael's house, and it's the woman who she has a scene with Dana Carvey where she's like, interview kids and try and get a signed thing from their parents, and if you can't get a signed thing from parents, get a statement anyway. That's Dana Carvey.
Yes.
He's very young. It's like one of his first appearances in any sort of thing ever. Yeah, absolutely. That's Dana Carvey.
Love him.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing.
Wow. What's funny is, Ethan, when you were mentioning the alternate versions to me, I had completely blacked out that version, but I have seen it.
I've seen it too.
Yeah.
There's so many times where I've seen these other versions that are only ever on TV because I watch them on TV, but I can't get them on DVD because they just don't exist on DVD.
Right.
Well, I have, this is the Blu-ray from a few years ago.
Okay.
And the Blu-rays on the inside, there are 2 discs. There is the theatrical.
Okay.
And there,
Okay.
we can spin it around. This one, it says the television version. So
Oh,
Nice.
gosh.
you can get it.
Nice.
So it is available. Yes.
That's
And-
awesome.
That is awesome.
And yeah, so it is there. So you should, if you're interested,
I'm gonna have to get that now.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, because I have them on Blu-ray, but it's like the big old set of all of them together.
Right.
Right.
And I don't. They might have some of the scenes that were in the TV version as like an extra, but they don't have the whole version. So yeah. But anyway, let me share my theory.
Please.
Yes, please.
Okay, my theory on Halloween 2 is that Halloween 2 is not so much a sequel to Halloween as it is a remake of Halloween. And I know you guys and the listeners are all going, Steve-O, what are you talking about? It's a totally different movie, different location of characters. But if you look at the story structure, both movies have almost the identical storyline. In that both movies start with a flashback, right?
Yeah.
Halloween starts with Michael killing his sister as a kid. Halloween 2 starts with the last couple minutes of Halloween, the original. Okay.
Right.
The next scene in both movies is Michael Myers escaping from Loomis. In the original, it's at the asylum. He jumps in the station wagon, drives away. In part 2, he gets up and he gets away down the alley and he escapes. After that moment in both movies split off into two plot lines. Plotline number 1 is Sam Loomis running around Haddonfield looking for Michael, giving these amazing freaking soliloquies about death and walls and ticking clocks and the devil's eyes and all the cool stuff he does.
Yeah.
And the second plot line is Laurie Strode isolated and by herself with Michael Myers kind of slowly getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
And eventually these two storylines intersect again when Loomis shows up at the very last minute to save Laurie Strode. And this is where it's the only difference is that in Halloween, he doesn't really stop Michael Myers. He just he stops him temporarily, I guess is the way to say it. And Michael vanishes into the night and the movie ends. And in Halloween 2, as we just talked about, they all blowed up because John Carpenter's like, enough of this crap. I'm not doing it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, my thought is Carpenter, when he wrote Halloween 2, he just said, fine, they want more of the original. I'm just going to give them the original again. What do you think?
That's kind of brilliant.
I'm going to go ahead and weigh in here. Because Hollywood has a tendency, especially in horror, if the first thing worked, we're going to stick to that formula and just keep churning them out.
Right.
And, Carpenter was busy working on other projects. He didn't want to do this movie. Yeah. So, of course, he's going to be like, just give them whatever they liked from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So just, recopy the formula, change a few details here or there, and boom, you got the same movie, and I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Right.
It's
nice I'm working on the thing. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's going to be a better movie anyways, I'm sure is what he was thinking. But I honestly think that was more of John Carpenter's thing because he didn't want to do this movie. And it's very common in Hollywood to just keep churning the same formula out over and over, as we've seen with countless other slashers. So I'm going to burst the fan theory bubble. I'm sorry. It's BS.
No, that's fine. Again, like I said, it doesn't quite line up to exact remake because there are so many cosmetic differences and it's in a hospital and they're totally different characters and he kills 1 million more people and so on. But I just think that the fact that the if you break down the plot, it is essentially the same.
It is
plot
crazy. It is crazy how identical it is.
Wow.
And then Ethan, on one of your points when you talked about the original draft, I have seen an interview with Tommy Lee Wallace because Carpenter went to the producers and said, I will write this movie, I will produce this movie, but I'm not going to direct this movie. And they're like, fine. And so he initially went to Tommy Lee Wallace and said, do you want to direct? Mm-hmm. And he did. Tommy Lee Wallace is one of his childhood friends. He's a member of his band, the Coupe de Villes, which is incidentally, it's Carpenter, Tommy Lee Wallace, and Nick Castle. That's the Bills, which is
Aww.
amazing.
Yep.
So if you ever watch the end of Big Trouble in Little China, the
Yeah.
song Big Trouble in Little China is Nick Castle singing lead and John Carpenter doing backup vocals. It's awesome.
Yep.
I love that.
I never knew that.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
And Adrienne Barbeau's character mentions the Coupe de Villes in The Fog as the next record she's going to play. But anyway, Tommy Lee Wallace didn't go to film school, but he always wanted to make movies. He was making movies with Carpenter, so he's like, absolutely, I want to direct. And what he had said was the original script they developed is actually, it's kind of like Steve Miner, kind of like cherry picked most of it for H2O, in that you're right. Yeah. It's several years later, but what Tommy Wallace said was that Laurie Strode is off in college now, and whatever college she's in is the most un-American college, because on Halloween weekend at this particular school, all the kids go home, which, as we all know, is crazy because Halloween is like the biggest party weekend on schools everywhere. But anyway, that's what happens. And of course, Haddonfield is the last place on the universe that Laurie Strode wants to be for Halloween. Yeah. So she stays. And there's a few other kids that, for whatever their personal reasons, they don't go either. So you have a very small amount of people. And it's at this moment that Michael Myers returns and starts to terrorize her. And again, what Tommy Lee Wallace said was that about halfway through developing it, the producer stepped in and went, no, we're not going to tell that story. We're picking up right where part one ends, because that's what the fans want to know, is what happened next. And then Tommy Lee Wallace kind of saw the script and went, yeah, I don't want to do it. And so he passed. But they gave him Halloween 3 a couple years later, and thank God they did, because that's an amazing movie. So
yes, it
love
is.
that movie so much.
Although listening to you describe the other one, I want that now.
Did that not sound great? Yeah, I would watch that movie. I agree. Too. And I think that was, at that point, Carpenter and Hill were at least trying to write something that was good. And then once the producer said, no, we're going to pick it up, and they both knew there's no story there, I think they just went into autopilot and we get what we got.
Right.
But
totally.
But anyway, let me explain my obsession about this movie, if I may. And it is all about alternate versions, okay? Because like I said, I did not see it when it came out. I did see it on either rental, on video, or like on one of the pay channels like HBO or Skinamax or Showtime or something. And I just kind of immediately dismissed it because I'd seen so many other slasher movies by that point. It was just another slasher movie. And again, original Halloween, fantastic movie. This movie, that was it. Then you got to get in the DeLorean and jump forward about 10 years to about 1993. Okay. And 1993, it was, I'll never forget, it was a Friday night and it was in October, and I was watching either AMC or like WGN, which is a big over-the-air station here. And they hadn't quite got the Halloween horror festival thing where it's like a different movie every night, but like every weekend in October, they would show scary movies. Yeah. It was a Friday night. They're showing Halloween 2. And I'm like, I haven't seen Halloween 2 in so long. I'll watch it. You know how you are when you catch an old movie like that. And you're like, And so I sit down and I'm watching it, and a scene happens, and it gets done, and I think to myself, wow, I don't remember that scene from Halloween 2 at all. That's weird. And so I'm watching, and then like immediately after that, another scene happens, and I'm like, I have to really rewatch this movie, because these things are not anything in my memory at all. And now I'm like watching it like, what else is going to happen? And the ending happens, and the ending is totally different from what I remember. And like at that moment, I'm like, this is it. This is my psychotic break right now.
I've lost my mind.
This is not the movie I remember. And it bothered me so much. I went out that Saturday, the next day, to the video store. The video store. And
I know.
I rented Halloween 2. I brought it home and I put it in the video tab. I watched it, and all of these different scenes that I just seen the night before are not in it at all.
We're gone.
And I'm freaking out now. And today, I think anyone who's listening, like, what are you talking about? But you have to remember, in 1993, there's no internet, there's no Google, there's no super information highway, there's nowhere to like type in your phone Halloween 2 and get the answer, right? And so I'm just like, I'm crazy. This is it. It's over. So now you got to jump in the DeLorean again and go to about 1999 or 2000. So now we are in the internet age, but it's like
Yeah.
the wild, wild west period of the internet where everybody's on AOL, everyone's
Yes.
got dial-up.
Oh yeah.
You know, you want to download a 5 megabit picture. This procedure everyone did was the same. You got ready to go to bed. You turned off all the lights. You started the download. You went to bed, and you hoped in the morning when you got up,
Be ready.
it didn't hang up halfway through. That's how it worked, right? Crazy, right? We all remember it. But one of the cool things about it was that there were no copyright laws for the internet yet, because all the copyright laws were written in like the 20s, decades before this technology existed. So anybody could put anything up from anyone else, and all the original person could do would be like, I don't like that.
Yep.
You know, so Disney could not like get in your face and say, you can't have this picture of Mickey Mouse up on your website, because there's no law that says you can't. And so all of the fanboys and fangirls that had any kind of programming were doing like their own little fan web pages for stuff they were into. And I don't remember how I did it, but I stumbled across some dude's page on Halloween 2. And I finally got clarity and realized that was not the thing that was going to cause my psychotic break. And I learned about the fact that Rosenthal made the movie. Carpenter watched the movie and realized, Ethan, like you said, that the audiences of that time were so used to the violence and the boobs and all that it wasn't going to play. So he hacked out about 12 minutes of it. He brought back some of the original actors and reshot stuff, and he wrote additional scenes and shot them and then put it all in there. And like you said, that pissed off Rosenthal a lot. And he was like, take my name off it. I don't want to do it. But the byproduct of it is when over-the-air channels like AMC or WGN want to show Halloween 2 on TV, they would take the Rosenthal version because it was less to cut out and it fit the 2-hour time slot that they want to do. And that's what I had seen. So again, today, of course, you're like, well, you dim bulb, it's just another version. But back then in 1993, the idea of deleted scenes and extrovert, that was new and unknown. And there was no way for me to find that out, you know? But that caused my obsession on this movie to start. And then this dude had all this other information about it. And he talks about deleted scenes that I've never seen that I would really like to. There's supposedly a scene where the television guy, Mundy, who is reporting about, 3 teens, 2 girls and a boy found dead. And he goes to the hospital and wants to interview Laurie, and they won't let him in. But he tells Jimmy that Michael Myers has burned up in the car crash, and they think he's dead. But that scene has been cut. And Rick Rosenthal talks about a scene where one of the nurses is being chased by Michael. I don't remember who. And the way he talks about it, it sounds like they filmed it, but I've never seen anything about it. But she is hiding in a closet in one of the rooms. And Michael comes in, and so we get her POV looking through like the slats of the closet door, and Michael's kind of, stalking in the room looking for her, and then he doesn't kill her, he leaves. But again, really interesting stuff that I would love to see that I never have. And then of course that just kind of fueled my interest in it. And you find out again, Carpenter was sued by the producers. He had to make this movie, and all of the stuff that happened with that. And then when he hacked everything out, he creates massive plot holes in this movie. Why are all the lights out in the hospital halfway through the movie? And no one seems to be freaking out about it, right? That there's a reason. There's an extra scene that explains that he cuts out. Jimmy very famously says to Laurie, do you want a Coke? And she's like, yes. And then the douchebag comes back to see her like 4 times and never brings her the Coke, right?
No Coke.
And you're like, dude, if you like this girl and it's like 22-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis, yes, you like her. Right. Bring her a damn Coca-Cola, right?
Bring her 2.
Well, there's a top of one of the scenes. He brings her the Coke. And Carpenter cuts it out, right? And then there's another scene, Karen, Pamela Susan Shoop, when she first comes on duty, they make a big deal about her adjusting this pink belt on her white uniform.
I noticed that.
And I love the pink belt. Yeah.
Right.
You never see it again.
And then literally the next scene you see of Karen, it's gone. And again, there was a whole thing about Mrs. Alves kind of gets in her face and says, you can't wear that. It's not part of the uniform. Please take it off and everything. But again, when you're watching, you're like, what happened to the belt? Well, you know,
she was accessorizing and then something changed.
Yeah, right. And then finally, you know, the scene when Jimmy comes in and Lori is like, looks like she's dead. And and Jimmy has this really sweet speech about, you know, I like you and I'm not going to let anything happen to you. And then, you know, he realizes that she's like in a coma, which, you know, that's like my luck with girls. Oh, I totally get you, Jimmy. But and so, you know, he waves in front of her eyes and then they come in. And of course, you know, you're like, well, what happened to her? Why is she freaking out like that? Right. Why is she acting like this? There is another scene where Jimmy comes to see her. It's like the top of a scene or something. And he says, you're safe. He wakes her up. He goes, you're fine. Michael's dead. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, he burned up in a car crash. He's dead. And Lori freaks out and starts screaming. He's not dead. He's coming to get me. He's coming to get me. Everybody comes in and they have to hold her down, and Mixter like gives her something to calm her down. That's what she has a reaction to, the medication that she's given. And again, without that scene for context, you're like, why is she suddenly comatose? And then why the next scene is she seemingly okay? Because she's the next thing you see her, she's like walking down the hallway, clearly stoned, but still she's ambushed. So again, Carpenter trying to fix the movie makes some plot hole issues come up that, again, the overall enjoyment goes down because you're like, the movie doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm rambling, but again, this is such a great movie. So.
No, it's great. And like all the stuff outside the movie, like what you're talking about, discovering all these like alternative things and things that were cut and what that caused, like it's almost more interesting than the movie itself.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I always look at it as Halloween is a movie that was made by a bunch of people that wanted to make a really good movie.
Yeah.
And Halloween 2 is a movie that was made by a bunch of people that wanted to make a really lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, it was clearly, you know, the producers wanted to cash in. The slasher phase the era was in full bloom.
Yeah.
You know, like 1980 to like halfway through 1984, that's the slasher era. And like Nightmare on Elm Street, when that comes out in 84, that's the end. And you just have the franchises after that, really. But, you know, I can just see those producers watching movie after movie coming out in 1970, 1980. They're all basically Halloween knockoffs. Most of them star Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
Yes.
Other producers are making money hand over fist from these movies, and they're not even close to Halloween in quality and style and everything.
Right.
So they're just jonesing to make a sequel.
Oh yeah.
And again, once they got the legal arm wrenching to make Carpenter do it, they were like, yeah, let's get the money train going. And you know, Halloween 2 did make a lot of money for the time, but it just, again, creatively, it's not even close to the original movie, you know, which, but again, I parts of it I hate, but I love it. You know what I mean? I've probably seen Halloween 2 like 300 times. I mean, I put it on in the background when I'm just puttering around the house doing other stuff, right? You know, so you know, it's one of those guilty pleasures. So this year at Flashback, I'm very excited because Nancy Stevens, who is Marion Chambers, is coming to the show, and I am going to have her sign both my Halloween, which you can see behind me, and my Halloween 2 poster, which I do not have up because I don't have the wall space for it. But I'm super excited. Anytime I get to meet any of those folks, it's so great. And and the Halloween 2 cast, they are super unbelievable people. The ones that I've met, very friendly and outgoing, and tell great stories and put up with the nonsense that the fans give them, and do it all with a smile. So I'm so excited, and it's gonna be great because you guys are gonna be there too. So hopefully we can hook up and spend some time together as well. So,
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rate this movie. Steve, you are our guest. We will start with you, sir.
Okay, well, again, I love this movie, yet I hate this movie. So I will give it, I kind of go right down the middle, and I will give it 5 stars and a needle to the temple.
Perfect.
Like that.
Jamie, what about you?
So I really like this one. Again, like masterclass in hallways. It's really fun. There's some super great kills in this one that really stick out for me that I love. It's not my favorite of the franchise. It's not my least favorite of the franchise. I'm gonna give it like a solid. I'm gonna give it like a 6. And you know what? Let's just throw on a bloody Michael mask from the eyes,
Nice,
because that looks
nice.
really great. So it's like a 6.5.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Ethan?
Well, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that Halloween is my absolute favorite, not only
Yes,
horror movie, just my favorite movie in general.
Oh, yeah.
Great movie. Of course, 2 pales in comparison to 1. I mean, obviously. And it has a lot of plot holes and all that, but
Sure.
it does have some good kills, and it is very slasher-like, and I love slashers. So I'm going to have to give it a good 7. A 7 and a bloody butcher knife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I absolutely love part 2. Regardless of plot holes, I can watch it and I can watch it every single time. And the plot holes, for some reason, this movie, it does not bother me at all. Now, granted, it will never be part 1, no matter what.
Right.
Part 1 is as close to perfect as perfect can be. But part 2 is my favorite in the franchise, and it always will be.
Really?
And and I always will remember like staying up at night and specifically watching this one because it was my favorite. It is a 9 for me, solid 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, you know what? Love what you love. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing right. That's one of the things I just absolutely love about art is that art affects everybody differently. And there's no right or wrong. And whether it's a song or a poem or a book or a movie or a TV show, if you love it, freaking love it, man. And
absolutely.
Don't be afraid to say, yeah, that movie was great. Even if someone else is like, oh my God, that movie's a pile of trash. Hey, I liked it. You liked it. You liked it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I love it when everybody has a different viewpoint on what they like, what they don't like about it. So that makes it even more fun.
Yeah. Plus, like with us, we all have different things, but there are also a lot of things we're all like, oh yeah, that was a cool moment. We love that. You know what I mean? So you get a little bit of both. You get these little things affect me personally, and I think they're great, but there's so many other things that all of us are like, yeah, hell yeah, that was awesome.
Absolutely.
It's got a lot to love.
Yeah. Steve, before we wrap up, is there anything you would like to plug or promote?
Aim for the Head. Aim for the Head's a podcast that I do with my partner Diana. It is a Walking Dead universe podcast primarily. And we've been going now for quite a while. 2016 is when Diana started the show. I joined it in 2019. Again, primarily Walking Dead stuff, but when we're not doing when Walking Dead is on, the universe is on, there are new shows. We do a new episode every week and we cover the latest episode. But when we're in kind of a hiatus, which we are right now, I think the Daryl Dixon series kicks off in June, I think. So that's when we'll be back to doing regular stuff. But when we're in hiatus, we're kind of doing other stuff. We cover other shows. We cover movies. One of the things I discovered with Diana and I are pals for a long time. We worked in Chicago theater for a long time before we started podcasting. And interestingly enough, one of our theater pals back in the day was Dave Dismalchian, who, of course, is a huge gangbusters Hollywood dude. If you guys haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, you totally should.
Loved it.
I'm not gonna say that I'm best friends with Dave, but I spent many nights in bars drinking beer with Dave Dismalchian. So,
oh my God,
I love him.
So very, very cool dude, and he of course is very successful. I'm sure he would not remember me at all, but anyway. But one of the things I discovered about Diana is that she watched Walking Dead because she loves apocalyptic stuff, not necessarily horror. Although she has seen a lot of the franchisey stuff, but there's so much other she hasn't. And so when we review movies, I have dubbed it our 1,000,000-to-1 review, because it's a movie that usually I've seen 1,000,000 times and can quote you the dialogue, and she's seen it once. And so you get the viewpoint of the fanboy who has seen it, knows it backwards and forward, all the Easter eggs, all the trivia. And then you get the first person viewing who is just trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
The thing we're getting ready to record in the next, I think, week or two is we're going to do the original Hellraiser from 1986, 87.
Great movie.
Because at Days of the Dead Chicago recently in March, there was a big Hellraiser reunion. Clive Barker was there. It was amazing. And Diana dropped this little truth bomb on me that she has never seen Hellraiser.
Oh my God.
I don't know how that's possible, but I'm like, well, we're going to have to fix that. So we're going to cover Hellraiser and maybe Hellraiser 2, which is my personal favorite, although Hellraiser is pretty damn good in its own right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is what we have coming up, at least in the near future. But you can find all our podcasts wherever your podcasts live. And, we have lots of really cool episodes. One of my favorites is episode number 237, when we review The Shining.
Perfect.
Which was a really fun little coincidence that worked out. We review all the Romero films. We've reviewed John Carpenter's The Thing and other like the classic movies as well. So check them all out if you're bored and you have nothing else to do.
Awesome. And we will have the link to those in our description below. So please support Steve as much as you can. He is awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you hanging out with us on this day.
Yeah, this is so much fun. I was, I love the dolls. I loved the whole show. And when the dolls kind of broke up there, I was very sad for personal reasons because I really enjoyed the program. I loved the rapport that you guys had and everything. And I was so excited when seemingly instantly you guys started this podcast to kind of keep it going. And it's been fun to listen. I've enjoyed a lot of it. I do actually have a little bit of listener feedback for you if you guys are at all interested.
Absolutely.
Please.
Okay. I don't know if this is a good way to end the podcast or not, but this is for your Cryptids and Ghosts episode, which came out, I think, in mid-April. Where you did not really review a movie. You just kind of talked about cool stuff you're into. And I hate to speak for the rest of everyone on planet Earth, but I kind of feel compelled here. And that is, if you have pieces of the sidewalk that belonged in front of a serial killer's house or dirt from their crawl space or something that you display and prominently be check that shit out.
Right.
I am so sorry. You are, without a doubt, glorifying the serial killer, Ethan. There is no way around that, man. You can justify it however you want, whatever you got to do to sleep through the night. I'm just telling you what the rest of us normal people are thinking.
Gotcha.
If you watch a documentary on John Wayne Gacy, that is completely cool and normal. True crime is a big thing, right? If you own pieces of his house, you might need to talk to somebody. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Gotcha. So the fact that I would like to buy one of his paintings, that would be bad?
That maybe, I don't know. And again, I thought that episode was really fun, and you guys, it was great stories. But when you got to that moment where you're like, it's not glorifying, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, it totally is.
But it helps me sleep at night. So.
Exactly. Whatever you got to do, man. I get it. Just remember what the rest of us are thinking. That's all.
Especially somebody that's a viewpoint from within the horror community. Can you imagine somebody outside the horror community hearing that? They're excuse me?
Yeah. What? Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I almost screamed at my phone at that moment. I'm like, what are you talking about? So, but that's a mark of a good podcast because I was totally engrossed into it and really listening and paying attention. So
awesome. Well, thank you for the critique.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we love to hear that. Absolutely. If you guys have if other people have feedback or critiques, please share them with us. We'd love to know how we can improve, how, if there's other content that you would like us to do, whether it's, random talks about spooky things or a specific movie, we are more than willing to do that. So,
unless you're going to tell me that I'm a future serial killer, then I don't want to hear it. So
he gets that enough from his therapist.
Right.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. This has just been super fun. I love to talk horror movies. Especially love to talk horror movies with folks like yourself that are, just as versed in all this craziness as I am. So, anytime you need to fill a couple hours, if you want to talk about it, just give me, hit me up, because, there's you name a movie. I'm sure I've seen it, and if I haven't, I will. So.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back.
We have to do this.
Oh, we will.
Cool. Very cool.
Absolutely. All right. So this is Halloween 2. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please like, follow, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the Patreon, and we will see you guys very soon. Bye.
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 Bye.